The following program is intended for mature audiences.
Oh, yeah. We're talking that naughty Rocky movie tonight. Stiff competition on Flesh Wound After Dark. We're extra stiff tonight. I am Flesh Wound Dan, joined by Producer Todd. How goes it, Producer Todd?
Not good now.
It's always good. It's Flesh Wound After Dark. We haven't done a Vinegar Syndrome title in a while. Come to think of it, too. So, yeah, all is right with the world, Todd. We've got 80s golden era erotica on 4K. This is a 4K review, Todd.
First, they don't let Stallone in Creed 3. Now they don't let him in stiff competition. What's next?
Hey, Stallone, he did do some hardcore work.
This isn't kiddies.
So, I'm just saying. He was past that at this point, but never know. You never know. He might be down for stiff competition too. You could get Frank Stallone. I think Frank would be down.
Always.
Frank would definitely be down. If Sage were still with us, he'd be down too. So, anyways, so we're gonna tackle this one. As always, if you have any requests for Flesh Wound After Dark, drop them in the comments section. These shows have been doing exceptionally well, so we do appreciate it. And yeah, we covered a lot of Vinegar Syndrome titles in the past, particularly pre-YouTube, which was like everything. So yeah, there's some newer ones newer releases that we haven't covered. So if you're interested, think some you want to see a review for, comment on this video and we will get on it at some point. Busy schedule though. You forget how many erotic thrillers there are, and we've got nunsploitation shows, hicksploitation shows. We've got a lot for you. We're trying to tackle a little bit of everything that falls under the After Dark banner. So stay tuned because we will get to it. We do hear you. All right, so Stiff Competition from 1985, and director Paul Vitelli, the late Paul Vitelli. In this one, athletes are gearing up for the annual Suck Off Championship, a competition dedicated to crowning the woman with the best oral technique. Top coach Jeff loses his star contender, the Mouth, after she quits mid-round during an exhibition match. Desperate for a new would-be star athlete to compete for the world title, he finds the perfect candidate in the form of the shy and inexperienced Tammy. Realizing her tremendous potential, Jeff convinces her to begin a rigorous training process. But when the reigning champion, Cynthia Silkthroat, and her sleazy manager, Jake the Snake, not that one, get wind of Tammy's incredible abilities, they begin a sinister campaign to ensure she doesn't win the coveted title. One of the last hurrahs from the hardcore theatrical era, Paul Vitelli's Stiff Competition is a snappily paced sex farce boasting an all-star cast headlined by Gina Carrera, Cindy Summers, John Leslie, Herschel Savage, and Todd's favorite, Kitten Natividad. Peakorama proudly presents Stiff Competition on 4K. All right. So I think it's beautiful that we get something like this on 4K. Kudos to Vinegar Syndrome. I think this is a good one to put on there. I know there's some people that listen to the show who are not maybe the biggest, hardcore fans, but did enjoy the humor of this one, and I'm kind of curious to see what everybody thinks of it. So a little bit of background on the cast in this film. So Gina Carrera, she was somebody who was a name. She wasn't really around as long as you would think, though. She was very much one of those ones that only worked really kind of a few years, but as we all know, a few years you can churn out a lot of movies. There was a lot of scenes that she had done that were recycled into other films, which kind of makes it look like she worked a lot longer than she actually did. And yes, so this one is notable also for Kitten. Who Todd? What's one of your all-time favorites with Kitten? I think a top 10.
Oh well, I mean, I'm a huge Taking It Off fan.
Yes, I know that's a big one for you. I met her. I actually got her autograph back there off to the side. She was pretty cool, and yes. So first, I just want to get into, like I said, a little bit of the history here, which they go over in the audio commentary, which is with Gina Carrera, moderated by Casey Scott, who always slays it on these audio commentaries. There's a lot of stuff that even I didn't know. And she talks a little bit about Jim South giving her kind of really giving her start. And some of the other names she used, like Olivia Chase, Misty Raines. Some of you may remember a lot of that. She also goes over, this wasn't initially her movie. It was Little Oral Annie. It was going to be a vehicle for her, but she had dropped out, and the role became hers. Tragically, David Cannon, he passed, I believe, and the director died of AIDS. So a lot of people from this era that unfortunately are just not around anymore. And I apologize. I think I killed off David Cannon. Kevin James, I mean, had passed away. She talks a little bit about her country music career, which I was totally unaware of, and some really good information about what she was up to post adult films. I really enjoyed this interview quite a bit, and Paul did die unfortunately in 1986, shortly after this film, as I said, of AIDS, which was very very sad, because he made a film called Erotic Zone, which was kind of a parody of Twilight Zone, and a really that's a good film. I'm hoping maybe Vinegar Syndrome might have it. One thing of note that I highly recommend you do listen to the bonus features. She also talks a little bit about Ron Jeremy at the time, and had some good things to say about him. Obviously, we all know where things ended up with Ron Jeremy, but at least at this particular point, she said he was a pretty nice guy. So yeah, some good history on the movie. As far as the movie itself, adult films of the golden era, they can be harder to recommend if you weren't already a fan. Trying to explain that they weren't just about the adult content is a really tough sell that I've had. You have the more horror centric people. Anytime Vinegar Syndrome puts one out, they tend to shit on these movies and make fun of them, which always kind of hits me in the feels, because I do love these films so very much. This is something that I think works as a comedy. The comedic elements work very well in this film. Gina Carrera is adorable. Kitten's Kitten. Her assets are on display. John Leslie and Herschel Savage are pros. You get a small nonsense role from Paul Thomas as one of the announcers. He's actually really seems to be into his part here, and there was a lot of fun watching him. Todd, before I get too deep into it, what did you think of Stiff Competition? Did you see this back in the day?
Actually, I don't think I did. I mean, I knew of the Rocky, parody, but I want to say this is the first time that I've ever seen it. And the concept, I mean, take Rocky, make it about a blowjob. I mean, it nails what it's going for.
The Super Bowl of suck-offs.
So it makes for an entertaining spoof. It really does.
It does, and it's not all just oral techniques. There is a little bit more going on with that. I really enjoyed it. It could be a fun night to like pair this as a joke if you're watching maybe the new Creed movie or something like that. And the production values are beautiful. A lot of extras for an adult film in this, which I think really adds to the production values. Another one that Gina does talk about on the audio commentary that I think Casey Scott does more or less confirm is coming from Vinegar Syndrome is the adult period piece Lust on the Orient Express. That is a big one. I'm a big fan of that. I hope it gets a 4K as well. It probably will. It seems like it's all about the 4Ks now for Vinegar Syndrome. Also kind of catches you up. Bridget Monet, who became a doctor. Yeah, that as always, I think the audio commentary is like the biggest highlight for me with these films. And yeah, I do enjoy this one quite a bit. I recommend it a little bit more broadly. I think this is one that will amuse you even if you're not fully into the golden era adult classics. And I thought the gimmicks were funny. Linda Lone Star doing the cowgirl gimmick here. The gag where you have these old like golden girls who are watching the suck off on TV, and I like the one lady's like, "Where are the hard cocks?" That was funny. I would have liked some information on them. Like, who the hell were they and how did you get them to appear in this thing? Did they even know what they were in? Because that I thought was just hilarious. And yeah, I think this one works really well. As far as the erotic content goes, I don't know that there's anything super special, but if you're into Gina, she looked great. Sometimes the 4K, especially Blu-ray, but 4K presentation, some of these girls, you see a lot of flaws. But I think Gina was looking amazing at this point. So
that goes to modern porn too, not just the golden era.
Yeah.
4K is
some of the, well, even DVD, like some of the early like Carlos Tobalina films that they put out on DVD, there were some, yeah, there's some very questionable performers in those movies, but I like Tobalina's films. And yeah, this is definitely an A title. The golden era kind of ended in 84, but I kind of extend it to 85 because I think there were still some notable things coming out in 85. And of course, The Poonies, one of my all-time favorite adult films, one of my earliest adult films, came out in 85. So this really was kind of the end of an era at this point. If you're of the right age, which I'm not really, I mean, a lot of this stuff I saw after the fact, you see a massive change. I mean, even just going into the late 80s versus the early 80s, the industry changed drastically. I mean, you didn't have anything like this. It was very rare. In fact, the 90s was probably the least they really didn't go for it in terms of lavish productions the same way that you had. I mean, there's exceptions, obviously, but a lot of the effort wasn't quite there like it used to be. And
Well, that's
so,
because the industry changed. I mean, why
yeah,
spend the amount of money someone did with a video camera and, you know,
I get it from, yeah, a practical standpoint, but it does sort of make me sad not seeing uh, adult filmmakers really just go for it and really try to make like an actual film
we
anymore.
we got back to that. I mean, it had to become special again. Otherwise, it was just, you know,
Yeah. I
porn.
mean,
I think,
yeah, we had the Axel Bronze, the big
yeah.
parodies and everything that started to come out too. But you really watch like the 90s, there's even some of the parodies too. Like some of them, it's like we had a budget of like $50.
Oh yeah, the budget. Yeah. Well, because I mean, there were so many people in the market. It was hard to. How do you compete?
Yeah, no, that's true. And it's unfortunate. It is what it is. You can still be creative while just shooting on, you know, a cell phone. I mean, you can still be creative and do something unique that catches people's attention. Uh, but, but yeah, I do kind of miss these days, and I'm glad that Vinegar Syndrome is preserving some of it. And I think this one is absolutely one you should pick up. Like I said, uh, it's hard to predict what you may or may not be into in terms of the performers or the women, but I think this is a really strong title, and I really kind of admire and just what it was like at that time, because Gina was never a contract girl, and she talks about that. She did a ton of scenes, but she was never a contract girl. And she talks about some films like On Golden Blonde, which she was in with Ginger Lynn, who of course was one of the big stars of the time, and that managed to have a solid mainstream career. She at least got to do some different things after the fact, and she runs down a lot of her films. I remember her well. I did not realize how short of a time she was actually in the business. It kind of blew my mind too, but when I look back at it, I'm like, well, yeah, it's a lot of recycled scenes that happen all the time. So kind of kind of makes sense that you were looking at a lot of reused stuff. And she's a lot of unfair things that we still deal with today. She talks about being fired by Playboy for doing adult films, which is just wild that they would do that. And also, I had referenced on a earlier show that we did, Andy Milligan. She also talks about doing The Weirdo, which was the second to last, I believe, if memory serves, film that Andy Milligan made. So there's a lot here for Grindhouse fans and everything as well. I think Vinegar Syndrome did an amazing job on this release. As far as the movie goes, I'm 4 stars on the movie. It's not an all-time favorite, but I had a lot of time watching it. Even if you edited out the more hardcore stuff, I can still really enjoy this movie based on the other merits of the actors and the comedy. And as always, they slay it with the extras as well. Give me a good commentary and I'm set. How about you, Todd? What say you?
I think you liked it a little bit more than me.
Oh, really?
It's no corporate assets, but I'm a solid 3.5.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's one that I am happy that they put out. More Nina Hartley, please. I know she came in towards the end of the golden era, but I would like to see some more Nina Hartley. Give me some Nina Hartley 4Ks. And one that I've asked about a lot uh, over the years because it was announced back in the day from Code Red. I don't know where it lies now, but I hope we're still getting a Blu-ray of the notorious 1976 film from Sean Costello, Water Power. If anybody's heard anything about that, maybe still coming, no pun intended.
There was backlash when Code Red announced it, so
yeah, who it drives me crazy when people rage, like if it's not just some
I think there
80s
was
horror movie, they bitch about it. I mean,
there was
I
some
love it all.
legality of it that was problematic, and I believe that's what VS said why they weren't going to touch it.
Okay, so it couldn't be Vinegar Syndrome. All right.
I could have got cleared up, but I think it had more to do with the content than the actual music clearances or something like that. But I could be wrong. But that's what I remember being the issue when it was announced.
It is based on the Enema Bandit. So I'll put it that way. If you want some
Backstory.
yeah, look into Water Power. Somebody needs to put it out. That's all I have to say. Maybe the demon will do it. I don't know.
On that note,
On that note, guys, that's all we have for you here. We'll see you next time. Good night. Oh yeah.
Good evening.